The system allowed me to be reborn and travel through time to become the villain's vicious stepmother. The system required me not to destroy my character. I looked at the 5-year-old Andy at my feet and viciously replaced the milk in his hand with bitter melon juice. From then on, Andy could no longer be picky about food and could only clean up the poop of his pets. Later, when applying for university, I secretly changed Andy's choice of major. Many years later, the villain Andy became successful. I thought I was in big trouble, but Andy stood in front of the media and said, "The person I am most grateful to is my mother. It is her love that has accompanied me as I grew up, and it is she who has pointed out the direction of my life." Wait, something's not quite right. The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and follow. After I died of illness, the system allowed me to travel through time and space and become the vicious stepmother of a villain in a novel, so that I could continue to live. But the price is that the character cannot be destroyed. This is an urban male-oriented novel. Andy, who is only 5 years old at the time, will become the villain who destroys the protagonist's family in the future. The biggest reason for his distorted character comes from me, his vicious stepmother. I thought about it for a moment, and really didn't have any vicious experience, so I simply understood it as not allowing him to live too comfortably. So I looked at the little kid sitting on the chair next to me, drinking milk quietly, snatched his cup and handed it to the nanny. "Change it to bitter melon juice, the bitterer the better." The little guy was stunned for a moment, with a circle of white beard hanging around his mouth. He glared at me angrily but didn't dare to speak. When I traveled through time, this body had already been married into the Robert family for more than half a year. According to the original plot, after I found out that Robert, the villain's father, didn't come home often, I gradually tore off my gentle mask and started to torture and frame little Andy in various ways. He resisted at first, but a child is no match for an adult. As soon as he complained, I became even more wronged and misinterpreted him. After long-term mental abuse, he has become angry but dare not speak out. What I have to do now is to carry this behavior forward and add some of my own twist to it. Andy probably had never drunk bitter melon juice before. His little face wrinkled and he subconsciously stuck out his tongue. I was so touched by the cuteness, but I still said coldly, "Drink it up." Eating bitter melon is a form of torture for children. How can it not be considered abuse? I was such a successful stepmother. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. After breakfast, the nanny took Andy to school. I watched him change into some cheap and tattered clothes and frowned. "Why do you dress like this on purpose? Didn't you say before that we shouldn't encourage children's vanity and should keep a low profile?" TSK, the original owner's setting was so evil and sinister that he actually wanted to suppress Andy's self-esteem in this way. But what do kindergarten children know about wealth and poverty? What children of this age fear most is obviously exclusion and isolation. Thinking of this, I immediately asked the nanny to change Andy into a small suit and put on a cute little bow tie, and then asked the driver to drive out the most expensive and high-profile car in the garage to ensure that he would become the most special kid in the entire kindergarten. Maybe my behavior was a little different from usual. When I was about to leave, little Andy pursed his lips nervously and asked softly, "Why are you doing this?" I squatted down and laughed twice, "Because I'm bad." Little Andy was so scared that he took a step back. I rushed forward and kissed his chubby little face. He covered his face in fear, and I took the opportunity to threaten him, "Hurry up and say goodbye to your mother, or I will personally go to the kindergarten to block you when you get out of school this afternoon." After spending the previous 6 months together, he should have hated me. I kissed him and asked him to call me Mom, which was like dancing on his sore spot. But he had to submit. As I watched Andy shut his mouth and run out the door, I felt like I was being extremely vicious. After Andy went to school, I started hanging around the villa doing nothing. The original text said that Robert was busy working outside and often didn't go home for 10 days or half a month. I was completely the wife he married to take care of Andy. He gives me 3 million yuan every month for living expenses. He probably thought that the huge living expenses would make the stepmother treat the child well, but he didn't expect that it would arouse people's greed instead. Thinking of this, I asked the system with a slight sigh, "How long can my vicious personality be maintained?" The system said that Andy's stepmother had an important role in secretly changing his college application, which forced him to go abroad and encounter even darker things. So my character has to be maintained at least until Andy takes the college entrance examination. Roughly speaking, there are still at least 13 years. Although the life of a rich wife is quite comfortable, it is too hard to maintain a vicious personality every day. So I decided to go out on a shopping spree to comfort myself. When it was getting dark, the driver drove the car to the kindergarten gate on time. Andy didn't say goodbye to me when he left in the morning. I said I would come to pick him up, so I had to do what I said and conscientiously implement my authority to let him know how powerful I, as his stepmother, am. This private kindergarten is built like a small castle. Not long after, the teacher appeared at the door with a group of little kids, and they staggered to find their parents. I sat quietly in the car for a while, planning to suddenly appear and give Andy a scare when he was in a panic because his parents forgot to pick him up. But unexpectedly, as soon as the teacher left, several children surrounded Andy and seemed to be saying something like, "Mom, come pick me up." Andy lowered his head in silence, and the kids began to jump around him and clap their hands. I was stunned. No, how come this is still happening? As a qualified vicious stepmother, I immediately showed up and interrupted their happy time. "Hey, why don't you kids go home? Don't tell me your parents don't want you anymore?" "No way, no way." I pulled Andy, who was surrounded, over and glared at the group of kids fiercely. Yes, that's it. I was going to offend all his friends. "Who are you? Are you the sister of the liar?" The word sister made me feel a little soft-hearted, but I still immediately retorted, "What liar? Who is the liar? Didn't the teacher teach you to call people by their names? I am Andy's mother. Andy in our family doesn't like you. You are not allowed to play with him in the future." "Andy's mother? His mother is a nanny. I've met her. She doesn't look like you." He also lied and said that wasn't his mom. "He's just a vain liar, we don't want to play with him." What a mess. I am Andy's mother. I raised my fist in anger, and the group of naughty kids immediately ran away laughing. At this time Andy, who had been standing behind me, tugged at the corner of my clothes and looked at me with sparkling eyes. "Thank you for picking me up today. Is there something wrong? Why are you still thanking me?" Maybe my strategy of establishing authority was effective. When Andy got home, he was extremely well behaved. Not only did he follow me around happily, he also took the initiative to help me peel shrimps during meals. He carefully handed the shrimp to my bowl, and when I didn't move, he emphasized, I washed my hands. I picked up the chopsticks, picked up a piece of shrimp, put it in my mouth, and nodded, "You peeled it well. As a reward, you can peel a few more for me." Little Andy pursed his lips, lowered his head and began to peel the shrimps carefully. Finally, I couldn't eat any more, so the remaining shrimp went into his stomach. "If you eat too much for dinner, you should do some exercise after dinner." Considering my vicious personality, what better sport is there than torturing children? I walked into the room carrying 18 shopping bags and waved to Andy, who was playing with 9 rings, "Come over and try on clothes." Little Andy's clothes are usually delivered directly to him after being measured. He has probably never tried on clothes before. He was very excited at first and smiled with his little tiger teeth showing. Until later, he choked up and said, "Please, I can't try anymore. But there are still little bees, little penguins, little yellow ducks, and little monsters that we haven't tried yet." Andy stopped talking. He just stood there in his green dinosaur costume, looking at me with tears in his eyes. I sighed. Okay, let's continue with the evil plan and change the project. When it was time to go to bed, I decided to torture Andy one last time for the day. I forced him to stay in the room and rest with me. After he changed into his pajamas, I handed him a storybook, "Tell Mom a story and coax Mom to sleep." Andy was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't understand how there could be such a shameless adult, but he still took the storybook. A long time ago, there was a queen sitting at the open door, doing a job for her daughter Gushirxian. I was stunned. I forgot that the child was only 5 years old and could not read many words. But this gave me inspiration. Most children like to play and hate studying. An idea suddenly struck me, and a vicious plan slowly took shape in my mind. Andy was still stumbling over his storybook. He probably knew that he didn't know many words. Seeing that I was staring at him, his face turned red and his voice got smaller and smaller. I'll tell you tomorrow, okay?" I laughed strangely twice and took the storybook. "Lie down, now it's Mom's turn to tell you a story. Today's story is called Pet Cat Princess Coco and Her 7 Stepmothers." What a super horror story. I don't know whether Andy fell asleep in the end, but I told myself that he did. In the haze, it seemed as if something soft touched my cheek and called me softly, Mom. The next morning, while Andy went to school, I started to implement my chicken baby plan. Everything from Chinese, mathematics, English, and music is arranged, find the best tutor, and memorize the most rigorous books. I thought Andy would feel devastated when he knew all this when he got home from school, but I didn't expect him to adapt well, especially in learning to read. A few days later, when I passed by his study, he poked his little head out and read aloud, "Once upon a time, there was a queen who was sitting by the open window, sewing for her daughter." After reading it, he looked at me expectantly. To encourage him, I decided to reward him by telling me stories to sleep every night. Half a month later, there was no new progress in the evil stepmother's plan. I sent Andy back to my room, hid under the quilt, and quietly opened the story of Cinderella, hoping to find some inspiration from it. I didn't expect that I fell asleep after reading only 2 pages of the book. When I woke up again, the mattress shook twice and there was a dent on the edge of the bed. In the darkness, I couldn't see clearly and just thought it was Andy sneaking up on me. Subconsciously, I wanted to reach out to cover him with the quilt, but what I touched was a muscular chest. I was stunned for a second, then turned on the lamp in fear, and a scream instantly broke through my throat. "Fuck, who are you, bro?" The handsome guy in front of me looked somewhat similar to Andy. Hearing this, he raised an eyebrow. "If I remember correctly, it should be your husband." "Husband? Robert? Oh my God, I almost forgot about him." "Well, it's okay. At least you still remember my name." I awkwardly explained to my sponsor that I was confused from sleeping. At this moment, there was a hurried knock on the door. Without waiting for me to say anything, the person pressed the door handle anxiously. Andy was seen holding his baby Abebe, standing at the door with his bare feet. When he saw Robert, he called out "Dad" in a daze, then walked up to me and put his little hand on my head. "What's wrong with you? Did you have a nightmare?" I thought Robert was nearby and I couldn't let my stepmother nature show, so I gently comforted Andy and urged him to go back to sleep. Little Andy nodded, but went around to the other side of the bed, looked at his father, and said with a little grievance, "This is my place." Robert said seriously, "This is Daddy's place. I slept here until Dad came back. That's just lent to you temporarily. Now you should go back to your room and sleep." Andy pursed his lips and said nothing. He silently handed me his Abebe and said, "You won't have nightmares if you hold him." It seems that Robert is a typical strict father who raises his children but does not spoil them. No wonder Andy didn't realize he was abused by me until 8 years later in the original text. Seeing Andy was about to leave, I got anxious and quickly picked him up and put him in the middle of the bed. "Good boy, sleep with Mom and Dad tonight." Andy looked at me, then at his father, a little confused. I immediately acted coquettishly. Husband calling husband is better than sleeping in the same bed with a stranger. Robert's whole body stiffened, he hummed, turned his back and lay down. I don't know why, but my ears turned red. Perhaps because the company was gradually getting back on track, Robert stayed at home for an unusually long time this time. At the dinner table, he asked Andy how he was doing. I looked at Andy and gave him a standard warning smile, glaring at him fiercely. Sure enough, he pursed his lips and said that he had been very happy recently. Some time ago, he had a nosebleed due to inflammation, and I asked the nanny to prepare bitter melon juice for him every day. Sure enough, he was cured after drinking it for 2 days. He also said that I picked him up from school every day, bought him beautiful clothes, chased away the kids who bullied him, and hired a teacher to help him with his missed lessons. My own mother is not as attentive as I am. I was so moved that I almost cried. Children are really good at making up stories. Robert seemed very satisfied and immediately transferred 5 million to me, telling me to buy more of whatever I liked. I was so happy that I wanted to salute on the spot and shout "Thank you, boss" 3 times. In the next few days, I devoted myself to playing the role of a loving mother. Until Robert went abroad again to manage the branch. I turned to look at Andy, who was politely saying goodbye at the door, and laughed weirdly. "My friend, your good days are over. As a vicious stepmother appointed by the system, you must keep your original intention in mind and never forget your mission." That night, I put into practice on Andy the inspiration I got from Cinderella. I pointed at the dishes he had used and said, "You, go wash these." Andy said "Oh" and obediently carried the small bowl to the sink. While washing it, he asked me, "Is that so? Do you want to add this? Is it clean?" It was a bit like playing house and he was enjoying it. I snorted, and while giving him orders, I cruelly announced, from now on, not only will he have to wash his own bowl and chopsticks, he will also have to wash his own socks and underwear. Make sure to make him the gray boy of the new era. On weekends, I found a fitness trainer to train Andy in running. As for mental torture, I really tried my best and could only think of torturing him physically. So Andy and his coach ran very hard in front, and I walked leisurely behind. When I walked the second circle, a faint cat's cry suddenly came from behind the bushes. I opened it and saw a snow-white kitten. It was dirty all over and couldn't even walk steadily. At this time, Andy came over breathlessly. It's a kitten, why is it here alone, where is its mother? Maybe he went out for something. Andy nodded and said nothing, but he was absent-minded throughout the rest of the training. It was getting dark and time for us to go home. Andy looked at the kitten who was still there and asked, hasn't its mother come back yet? Judging from the kitten's fur color, it's most likely been abandoned. I didn't say anything, but Andy seemed to understand. He walked over, held the kitten in his arms, and looked at me with a pleading look in his eyes. Let's keep it. In order to portray myself as a vicious stepmother, I should have thrown the kitten out of his arms and scolded him for soiling his clothes. But seeing two pairs of round eyes looking at me at the same time really made me feel soft-hearted. Just this once, I thought, and then went to the supermarket next door to ask for a cardboard box. On the way back, Andy took the initiative to hold my hand. His hands are small and he can only hold 3 of my fingers. I looked down and saw that the child, who usually had a dull expression, actually smiled ingratiatingly. I thought he was expressing his gratitude for the kitten, but when he walked in, he whispered in my ear, I'll be good. I will be good. So, don't be like the kitten's mother and don't want me. My eyes were hot and my nose felt a little sore. But a vicious stepmother must never show weakness. I pulled Andy's cheek nonchalantly and said angrily, from now on, you will be responsible for cleaning the poop, and I will be responsible for petting the cat. The kitten was named Pet Cat Coco. Andy said that although Pet Cat Coco only has him as a stepmother, he will take good care of it. Then the next day, I saw Andy asking the nanny for help, sticking out his little butt, and grunting as he fed the kitten and cleaned its poop. The days passed slowly. Robert would come back occasionally and bring gifts to Andy and me. Except for the fact that I haven't seen him for 10 days or half a month, he is actually a nice person. I don't know if other rich wives feel lonely because their husbands don't come home, but I'm having a blast living like this. That day, I was lying in the living room watching a short skit about wealthy families, and Andy suddenly ran up to me and said, the kindergarten is holding a parent-child sports meeting in a few days. Can you go and participate? I raised an eyebrow. Little Andy immediately said, I'll peel the grapefruit for you and tell you a story at night. As if he was afraid that I wouldn't agree, he bit his lip and added that he was willing to continue to accompany me to try on clothes. I scratched my head, feeling as if I couldn't tell who was the kid for a moment. Since I was bored at home, I agreed. Andy cheered a little and looked at his jumping figure. He felt that the child was much more lively than when he first met him. On the day of the parent-child sports meeting, I got up early, tied my hair up, and changed into casual clothes. When the teacher saw me, he was stunned for a moment. Are you Andy's parent? I don't think it was you who came last time. I was also stunned and looked down at Andy. He pursed his lips and said, the last time it was the nanny who came. So that's it. No wonder those naughty kids said Andy's mother was a nanny. Normally, who would let a nanny attend their child's campus activities? I explained to the teacher awkwardly and left my contact information, saying that he could contact me if there was anything regarding Andy in the future. The opening ceremony of the sports meeting was a group dance of the kindergarten, and every child had to perform. Andy was standing in the front row, dancing and looking at me from time to time, his little face as red as a tomato. I couldn't help it and started taking a lot of photos with my phone. At this time, the system went online. Do you still remember that your character is a vicious stepmother? Don't forget your original intention and keep your mission in mind. This. I immediately argued, I kept all this to humiliate Andy in the future. Just think about it, in broad daylight, when he was successful, the big screen suddenly played the hip-shaking dance he did in kindergarten. How can this not be considered a disgrace? I clearly felt that the system was a little speechless, but fortunately it did not delve into it. After the opening ceremony, there was a parent-child relay race where teams were formed by drawing lots. This was a piece of cake for Andy, who had been training for some time. Seeing Andy winning by a huge margin, a kid from the next team said to Andy in a naughty way, "The babysitter you sent this time is much younger and prettier than the last time." This is my mother. This is the first time Andy has acknowledged me in public. I feel inexplicably touched. TSK, what's so great about that? How come you didn't have a mother before? You must have a stepmother. If you have a stepmother, you must have a stepfather. You will be miserable in the future, a little orphan that no one wants, lelelele. Andy was so angry that he argued with the other party. I couldn't scold the child directly, so I looked at the woman who seemed to be indifferent and said, "Is this how you usually teach your children? Our child is not wrong. Aren't you just a stepmother? So you are the biological mother? I can't tell. If you don't know, you would think you are deliberately allowing the child to be raised astray." The woman was so angry that she couldn't speak. Just as she was about to come over and push me, the teacher appeared in time and persuaded her to leave. I continued playing other games with Andy for a while and soon forgot the unpleasantness that had just occurred. But I didn't expect that enemies would meet on a narrow road. During the parent-friendly match in the afternoon, I met this mother and son again. The woman changed into sportswear and clamored to crush me. My physical fitness is average, but I am trying my best this time. Seeing that we were competing with each other, there were cheers all around. Just as I was half a step ahead and about to reach the finish line, a naughty kid who appeared out of nowhere next to me suddenly tripped me. I lost my balance and fell heavily to the ground, with a bloody scratch on my arm. Oh, my mom is going to win, my mom is going to win, Andy's mom is an idiot. The naughty kids were jumping and cheering nearby. I immediately turned into an excellent pipe crawler and reached the finish line before him. The naughty kid and his mother were both stunned. "Oh, I win. Your mom is an idiot." The naughty kid screamed and started to kick me while crying. "Mom." Andy ran over from the audience with red eyes and pushed the naughty kid down. The woman was not happy with this and raised her hand to slap Andy. I sat on the ground, unable to stop myself. Fortunately, someone suddenly strode towards her against the light and grabbed the woman's wrist tightly. "After bullying my wife, you want to bully my child now? Do you really think that I, Robert, don't exist?" Robert, he actually came. The woman got scared, and her husband came out from nowhere and started to smooth things over. "Boss Robert, don't be angry. Injuries are inevitable in competitive games. Children are ignorant, so don't worry about it. We will pay for your wife's medical expenses." Robert came over, picked me up horizontally, and used one hand to hold Andy. In competitive games, getting injured is inevitable? Okay, I hope Mr. Zhao will remember this. Then he carried me back to the car, helped me treat my wounds and apologized. He said he was busy at the company, and Andy told him he could come in the afternoon, so he was no longer in a hurry. After that, I apologized to Andy, who was blowing air on my wound. I quickly said it was okay and it was understandable that the financial sponsor was busy. But he sighed and said, Yuan, we are husband and wife, you can blame me. Well, if you knew that I have 3 million living expenses a month, you would feel that I have no reason to complain. Considering that there would be activities soon and my injury was not serious, we returned to our audience seats. Robert changed into sportswear specially. I asked him a few questions, and he touched Andy's little head and said nonchalantly, "I just signed up for a project. I can't let my wife and children be bullied for nothing." Then I saw Robert wrecking the court in the last friendly basketball game among the dads. Especially Mr. Zhao, the father of the naughty child, his shots would be blocked and every time he received the ball he would be tightly defended. The last time, Robert hit him in the face with a basketball, causing his nose to bleed. Robert patted the ball calmly. In competitive games, injuries are inevitable. I will pay for your medical expenses. If you insist on making a fuss, my legal team and I are always here to help you. Andy shouted from the audience, "Dad is so handsome." I looked at Robert, whose hair was a little messy, and agreed with him a little in my heart. On the way back, Andy was exhausted and fell asleep in my arms. I looked at Robert and whispered, "I didn't expect you could play basketball." After spending so much time together, I now dare to joke with my sponsor. Robert raised his eyebrows. "What do I look like in your eyes?" I wasn't born 28 years old. Before my eldest brother passed away, I was no different from many other second-generation rich people. His elder brother? It seems that this was not mentioned in the original text. Seeing that Robert was very secretive, I didn't ask any more questions. When they got home, he took Andy back to his room. At this time, I didn't know the seriousness of the problem, so I took a leisurely shower. Until Robert and I were the only ones left in the room. Seeing that I was inconvenient, he came over and helped me blow dry my hair. The white fingers gently shuttled through my black hair, and my heartbeat inexplicably quickened. As we looked at each other, Robert suddenly leaned over and kissed the top of my head. Yuan, let's be a real couple, okay? What's the meaning? Were they a fake couple before? My mind, which had been bewitched by male beauty, suddenly became clear. Then I learned a plot that was not mentioned in the original text. It turns out that Robert signed an agreement with me when he married me. The 3 million living expenses are conditional. Andy won't have a child with me until he's 16. No wonder he never asked me to fulfill my conjugal duties before. I can get money and I don't have to have kids. Now I have a handsome sponsor with 8-pack abs, I've seen them secretly, under my care. Oh my God, there is such a good thing? Robert and I started dating. Yes, I told him in a slightly hypocritical way that we should fall in love first. There was not much change in the frequency of his return home, but the number of his phone calls increased significantly. Sometimes he even has to report to me what he had for lunch and who he socialized with in the evening. Andy, ever since he called me mom at the parent-child sports meeting that day, it was as if he had opened the door to a new world, calling me mom every day. I asked him why he didn't call anyone before. He pouted and said, "You didn't let me scream before because you didn't like it. Besides, you were mean to me back then, and I didn't want to call you mom. Am I good to you now?" Andy didn't say anything. After a while, he leaned close to my ear and said, "I have a secret to tell you. I love my mother the most in the world." I smiled. "I have a secret for you too. No playing with the tablet and 20 more math problems." Andy, QAQ. Just kidding, I am a vicious stepmother. That day, Robert came home early, which was rare. He sent Andy away, took me to the study with a serious face, looked at me and said, "Let's get a divorce." What? I thought I had heard it wrong, but Robert looked serious. In a split second, all I could think of was, not only have I lost my love, but I've also failed in my difficult task as a vicious stepmother. Seeing that I looked devastated, Robert quickly pulled me over and said, Yuan, don't panic. It's my fault for not explaining it clearly. This is a fake divorce." Then he explained to me in a low voice that there was a mole among the senior management of the company and he needed to fake an inventory of the assets to divert attention and asked me to cooperate with him in the play. Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief. My leisurely life with a monthly salary of 3 million was secured. But then again, if this were in a melodramatic skit about a wealthy family, he would have to invent a female secretary to deliberately make me angry and run away, and then you abuse me and I abuse you, and we would abuse each other for 300 rounds before we reconciled. I told Robert this and he tapped my forehead with a speechless look. I laughed twice and began to listen carefully to his revenge plan. We were so focused that we didn't notice someone lying on the floor at the study door. We heard the words divorce and bankruptcy intermittently. After Robert and I had discussed it, as soon as I opened the door, I saw Andy with tears in his eyes. "Andy, my little darling." Before I could finish, he rushed over and hugged my thighs. "No need to ask, I'm with you. Pet cat Coco and I are both with you. We are your private property." Robert. It's hard to explain to a child what's going on. On the day the divorce news was announced, I was originally planning to leave alone. But Andy couldn't stop crying too loudly. "Mom, hiccup, don't leave, hiccup. I'll pick up mineral water bottles to feed you." There were a few times when he was running with his coach and he met an old man collecting rubbish in the park, so I gave him some scientific knowledge. I didn't expect he still remembered it. In the end, I had no choice but to ask the driver to take a long detour and drop Andy off at my current apartment. The apartment is not as big as a villa, it is only about 100 square meters. I didn't hire a nanny anymore and I just cleaned the house with Andy every day. Don't mention it, it's been a long time since I enjoyed being a vicious stepmother. On the other hand, Andy not only did not have difficulty adapting, but also became inexplicably hardworking. He said, "Don't worry, Mom, when I become a genius baby, I will definitely bring you back. Sit tight, I will kill you with my learning." I had already explained to him that it was fake. Next time I watch a melodramatic skit about a wealthy family, I will never listen to it out loud. The apartment is in the city and is much more convenient than a villa. I ate the fried chicken I hadn't eaten for a long time and breathed a sigh of satisfaction. Little Andy poked at the nutritious meal in front of him and was about to cry for food. "Mom, what are you eating?" "Hardship. But it smells so good." "It smells good but tastes bitter. Children cannot eat it. If they do, they will die." "I'm the big kid." "Well, let me test you. What is 36,781 times 5,482? Andy, QAQ. Yes, I did that on purpose. Occasionally, we still have to give the vicious stepmother character some presents. But he can have a sip of taro milk. Hey. After a while, I got tired of eating takeout from the surrounding area. Robert's company's problems were finally resolved. When he came to pick us up, I was cooking and had no hands free, so I asked Andy to open the door. Unexpectedly, when he saw it was Robert, he blinked his big eyes and asked, "Uncle, who are you looking for? Why did you come to my house?" "Robert. Although it's not wrong to call him uncle, if I remember correctly, I should be your father." "Mom, there's an unfamiliar uncle outside. Let's get him away. It seems that he is angry with his father." I responded but didn't go out. Andy ran back to the living room in his slippers. Robert came in and talked to him for a long time before he finally coaxed him into silence. Finally, little Andy said, "I can forgive you, but only if Daddy buys me a meal." "What do you want to eat?" "I want to suffer." Then Robert went into the kitchen, rolled up his shirt sleeves, and personally made a plate of bitter melon scrambled eggs for Andy. "Andy, QAQ, not this. Time flies, and Andy is already in high school. Over the years, I have strictly implemented the stepmother's housekeeping policy and have been determined not to let him live the life of a rich young master. He even started riding a bicycle to school. That day, he sent me a WeChat message after school, saying that he was going to bring back a classmate. I replied okay and started ordering grilled cold noodles, fried chicken strips, rose ice jelly, and pancakes. "Don't tell your dad." Andy replied with a begging emoticon. I reduced one as appropriate. It's not that the nanny at home can't make it, it's just that it doesn't taste as good as what we eat outside. When Andy came in, I was combing the hair of our pet cat Coco. The big white cat meowed coquettishly and wanted some dried fish. Seeing that it didn't work for me, I immediately went to get acquainted with Andy, who had just walked in. Andy handed the snacks to the babysitter, picked up the pet cat Coco and waited, then introduced me to the boy who was following behind him with a nervous look on his face. Andy said this was his deskmate, Su Hui. "Oh, Su Hui." I nodded. "Etc. Which one?" "Auntie, it's Hui from Huainan." "Damn it. Isn't this the male lead?" "Oh my god, how did you bring the male lead home?" Later I found out that Su Hui was a special recruit of their school. In the first month after he entered the school, he pushed Andy off the throne of top grade. From then on, the two of them competed with each other in their studies. He brought Su Hui back today to spy on the enemy. But later at the dinner table, he learned that Su Hui's grandmother was seriously ill, and Su Hui planned to drop out of school and go to work after one more semester. Andy felt compassion again and told me that he wanted to help Su Hui. After graduation, he can go work for Robert's family to pay off his debts. The villain recruits the hero and uses him as his own. From then on, the male protagonist, who is expected to be a big shot in the future, will have to work as a slave in Robert's family company after graduation. Is this correct? But when I looked at Andy's expectant eyes and thought of Su Hui's embarrassment, I couldn't say anything to object. Forget it, I just need to be a good vicious stepmother. Other people's fate is not my concern. So I said, "Okay, the funding will be deducted from your pocket money." Andy, Soon it was the day for Andy to take the college entrance examination. As a vicious stepmother, I also faced the final test, secretly changing Andy's college entrance examination application. The system said that it had turned a blind eye to all my previous cheating behaviors except this time. If you don't act according to your character, you will die directly. I remembered the test results I received 2 days ago and had to open my computer. Andy's password is easy to guess, it's Robert and I's birthdays. I asked the system if there was anything in the original text that pointed to the profession. The system said no, but I had to change Andy's choice completely. To put it simply, if he signs up for English, I have to change it to mathematics. I was too lazy to complain about the system's lack of common sense. Looking at Andy's inexplicable application forms, I simply changed all of his choices to prestigious schools. Alas, after being a stepmother for so many years, I was really vicious this time. Andy had no idea that I had changed his application. Maybe it was because the college entrance examination was over and he had some free time, so not only did he ask about my well-being every day, he also took care of me on behalf of his father. "You can't drink watermelon juice. It's too cold. Auntie just mopped the floor, please come over later. I've taken pet cat Coco to my room first. Don't hold him so often recently. I doubt he knew something. Rebellious son. I'm going to tell your father." Andy straightened his back and said, "My dad told me before he went on a business trip. Also, I don't have school recently, so I can't bring you snacks." Me, bad kid. After all, I did something bad, and I feel a little guilty. But also a little sad. I'm afraid this is Andy's last concern before the admission letter arrives. When the results were announced, Robert rushed back overnight. Our family sat anxiously in front of the computer. I was particularly nervous because I felt guilty. Robert looked helplessly at his hand, which had changed color from being squeezed by me. Yuan, this is not a prosthesis." I let go awkwardly. In the end, Andy's results were not found on the computer. His results were announced a few days late, and it was the teacher who notified him personally. He was 2 points ahead of Su Huai and became the city's top scorer in science. At the same time, he also found out that I had changed my application. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I turned my head away, not knowing how to explain. He ate rice with tears in his eyes and was so angry that he ignored me for several days. On the day Andy returned to school to give a speech as an outstanding graduate, the school specially invited me. I thought about it and decided to go. Based on Andy's personality, he will most likely expose my true face on stage. But if you do something wrong, you deserve to be punished and criticized. I sat in the first row, looking at the young man shining under the spotlight, blinked my sore eyes, and waited to face the judgment of fate. Unexpectedly, the first sentence Andy said in his speech was, "The person I am most grateful to is my mother. It is her love that accompanied me growing up, and it is she who pointed out the direction of my life. She fostered my sense of independence and taught me to do things on my own. The stories she told me were full of creativity and taught me to think divergently. She made me actively participate in daily household chores and cultivated my sense of family ownership. She pushed me to take good care of my pets and taught me responsibility. Through her actions, she taught me what it means to be unexpected and never give up." Andy praised me a lot. It didn't feel like a speech for outstanding graduates, but more like a commendation ceremony for me. As soon as the speech ended, countless parents came to me and asked me for advice on parenting. I was escorted out of the auditorium by the father and son with a confused look on my face. I later found out that Andy was never mad at me. He filled in the application form randomly on purpose. He wanted to fulfill me in his own way. Unexpectedly, I accidentally got things back on track. But Andy's reason for changing his choice of major really left me speechless. I punished him by making him and his dad weed the garden in the middle of the day, so that they could dry out the water in their heads. Robert, why should I go to punish him? If a son is not taught, it is the fault of his father. Robert. Andy, hee. At this moment, I suddenly heard the countdown for the system to disengage. System, thank you. Thank you for covering up for me all along. System, thank you too. Thank me for what? Thank you, for saving the kitten. I wish you all the best in the future. Goodbye. I was a little stunned until Andy and Robert wiped the sweat from their foreheads and waved to me. The sun is shining outside the window. I touched my increasingly round belly. All the coincidences in fate are just right. Andy's memoirs *. When Andy was little, his nanny took him for a walk. He discovered that everyone had a mother except him. At first he thought the nanny was his mother. When he called out this, the nanny denied it with a look of horror on her face. He felt aggrieved, so he turned around and told Robert about it. Robert was silent for a while and touched his little head. And then not long after that, he got a mother. The mother was very nice to him at the beginning and he was happy every day. But gradually, this mother changed. She began to deliberately starve him and dress him in ragged clothes. The kids in kindergarten bullied him. He complained to her in grievance, hoping that she could protect him. But she said to him indifferently, "Why don't they bully others but you? Is there something wrong with you?" After this happened so many times, little Andy didn't dare to complain anymore. His personality also became more and more silent. Robert was busy with work and didn't come home often, but he would call to ask if he was doing well. Andy dared not say anything bad, because the bad mother would pinch his thigh and flatter Robert, "Boss Robert, I'm at home, you can rest assured." Later Andy found out that this mother was not his biological mother, that was why she treated him so badly. One night, Andy lay on the windowsill looking at the stars. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed across the sky. He heard from the nanny that this was a shooting star and he could make a wish. He closed his eyes immediately. "Oh shooting star, if you can hear my wish, can you please let my mother come back to me?" The next day, Andy waited with great anticipation. But she didn't show up. The third day, the fourth day, until Andy himself became desperate. This was the third time he had a nosebleed in kindergarten that day. The teacher said that he had a hot temper, and asked his parents to prepare some bitter melon juice to reduce his heat. Andy pursed his lips, but didn't know who to tell. Daddy is thousands of miles away, and the wicked mommy wishes he were dead. He was so sad that he started to cry, and a strange emotion surged in his heart. He could hardly control himself, and the next morning, after his only milk was taken away, he finally couldn't help but glare at his bad mother. The bad mother was stunned, and then he got a glass of bitter melon juice. From then on, he found that the bad mother had changed. She would buy him new clothes, tell him strange stories, jokingly call him little baby Andy, kiss him, and help him drive away the naughty kids who bullied him. This mother is so nice. Andy just liked her so much. He always used to think he was the most miserable child, but now he has a mother of his own. He is the happiest child in the world. He lived this happy life for 13 years, until he entered high school, when he accidentally found out that he was not his parents' biological child. His father, Robert, is actually his uncle. His parents died in an accident. Then the bohemian uncle was forced to take on responsibilities that did not belong to him. It happened that at this time, he learned that his mother was pregnant. If a mother has her own child, will she stop loving him? The biggest reason for his mental distortion is the natural view: should all this belong to his mother's biological child? If Mom knew about this, she would probably hate him. The young boy, who was in his second year of middle school and had a lot on his mind, resolutely filled out his application form randomly, hoping to give everything back in his own way. Later, when his mother found out the reason, she looked at him as if he was mentally retarded and made him blush. His mother told him to stop doing these useless things, and if he really wanted to repay her, he should just help take care of his sister more. He coaxed his sister, who was just a few months old, in his arms, looked at pet cat Coco rubbing against his feet, and then told his sister the story of Princess Pet Cat Coco and her 7 brothers.